AI has currently exploded in popularity, and at the forefront of this is ChatGPT. So today I'm going to ask the AI about the new Nintendo console. I'm going to let the AI answer the question, and then I'm going to give my personal thoughts over how accurate the AI will be. But who knows, in a few years' time we'll look back and see whether I was right or the AI was right. Let's start with the big one. What features will be in the next Nintendo console?
It is difficult to predict exactly what features will be included in the next Nintendo console, as it will depend on the company's goals and technology advancements at the time of its release. However, some features that have been popular in recent console releases include big resolution and high-definition graphics.
I'm not sure the new console will be 4K. Nintendo historically have not really cared about resolution. For instance, the Wii released when HD was everywhere and wasn't an HD console. In fact, Nintendo only became HD at the Wii U era. So there is absolutely no chance in my mind the new console will be 4K. But we shall see.
Virtual reality or augmented reality capabilities.
Nintendo have done an awful lot with augmented reality with the 3DS and the 2DS consoles, and with virtual reality a little bit with the Labo. I think that Nintendo look at the technology as way too expensive if to do right, and they probably have an awful lot of hangovers from the Virtual Boy.
Improves online functionality, including multiplayer and streaming.
I think that's going to be everyone's hope that finally they will have a good online service.
A larger and more diverse library of games.
It's how they will achieve that. They'll achieve that if they get the big players such as EA, such as Activision with Call of Duty. If they get all of them on board, Microsoft have already said if they acquire Activision, they will put Call of Duty on the Nintendo console. Nintendo have to find a way of getting the next generation games on their console, even if it has to heavily rely on things like AI upscaling.
Compatibility with previous console generations.
This is a really tricky one, because the only thing I think it will be compatible with is the Switch, and whether that's compatible with the game cards or whether it's digitally compatible is yet to be seen.
Improved controller design and functionality.
I don't know whether there's much more Nintendo can do with the controller. I mean, it reminds me of the Nintendo 64, where there were 5 different ways of holding it. Everyone just held it the same way in the end.
More powerful hardware and processing capabilities.
There's no doubt the old Tegra chips are going to be upgraded. It's how far Nintendo upgrade them. There's some great chips from Nvidia out at the moment. Whether they've got a deal with Nvidia behind closed doors for a really, really great but cheap chip, who knows? And it would have to heavily rely on tricks like DLSS from Nvidia for it to run. I mean, I'm assuming it's going to be a deal with Nvidia, although the new Xbox and PlayStation have taken the AMD route, which has FSR, and it could be that FSR is much cheaper and better than Nvidia's offering. I'm not sure Nvidia will want to part ways with Nintendo, and I think they'll find a way of making the deal work, because they can't have the 3 console manufacturers all picking AMD next time round. There could be a surprise, and Intel might come forward with really great cheap chips that tick all the boxes for Nintendo, and they might promise really great integration and really good teamwork with no one else really working with Intel, and Intel really wanting to push into the GPU market. Who knows? You've heard it here first. Intel and Nintendo, partnership made in heaven? We'll see.
It's also important to note that Nintendo has historically differentiated itself with its unique and innovative controllers and new way of playing games. So, it's also possible that they will come up with something new that we haven't seen before.
I have a feeling I know what you're going to say for this, but what games do you think will release with the next Nintendo console?
Some examples of games that have been popular in the past and could potentially be released on a new console include Super Mario. The Super Mario franchise is one of Nintendo's most iconic and popular series, and a new entry in the series is likely to be released on a new console.
Yeah, it's whether Super Mario will release this year or next year, because a lot of people think there will be a Mario game releasing with the Mario movie, but there have been some rumours that it will be a 2D focused Mario game, because it'll be a more mass market game, and they might be holding back the 3D one for the release of the new console. So not a bad shout there.
The Legend of Zelda, another popular and long-running franchise that could see a new release on a new console.
I mean, Zelda's low-hanging fruit because we know it's going to come out this year, so there definitely will be a port of it, like there was from the Wii U to the Switch for the new console, no doubt.
Pokemon. Pokemon is one of Nintendo's most popular and successful franchises, and a new entry in the series to be released on a new console.
Pokemon will just release every year. I think it will just be releasing on whatever console's out. Whether Game Freak are holding back a super duper one, or whether Game Freak are like, well, let's just re-release that old one, or the old couple that didn't really work well on the Switch, and call it HD or something.
Animal Crossing. Animal Crossing is a popular life simulation game that has seen recent releases on the Nintendo Switch. A new entry in the series could be released on a new console.
Animal Crossing was a huge game during lockdown because everyone was stuck at home, and I know I was playing it every day just to keep my sanity. But it could be used to integrate a whole load of other services within the console. So if you think back to the Wii with the Mii's, having that theme across the console, the Wii Vote channel and all of that stuff integrated into the console itself, could be an interesting idea.
It's also possible that Nintendo will release new titles that are exclusive to their new console, such as new IPs, spin-offs, or sequels that are not part of their existing franchises. Additionally, Nintendo will work with third-party developers to bring more indie and even AAA games to their new console.
Yeah, I mean, Nintendo are known for taking risks with new games, so there could be another ARMS-like game where it's just come out of left field. Very, very good point. Now, I've cut a bit out of this video because I've tried my best to get the AI to answer this question, and I've had to phrase it in a very specific way. So here we go. If they named the console after a feature, what would they choose?
If Nintendo were to name their new console after a feature, it's difficult to say which one they would choose as the company has not announced any information about a new console and its name yet. However, based on the company's past naming conventions, it's likely that they would choose a feature that is innovative and new, reflects the console's capabilities and strengths, has a strong association with play and fun. With those criteria in mind, some possible features that Nintendo could name their new console after are Duality. Duality could reflect the idea of a console that is both a home console and a portable console, or it could reflect the idea of a console that offers two different ways to play.
I like it. I think it leans a little bit too much into the Switch, and I think that Nintendo will be aware that the demise of the Wii U was that everyone sort of thought it was like a Wii. So I think they'll need to go left field with a brand new name, completely separating it from the Switch.
Fusion. Fusion could reflect the idea of a console that combines elements from different existing consoles, such as the handheld capabilities of it and the home console capabilities of the Wii U.
I can't help but think Fusion Frenzy, which was an amazing game back in the day. Fusion's quite cool. I also think of those restaurants that let you mix different types of food and they all just end up tasting the same.
Infinity. Infinity could reflect the idea of a console that offers limitless possibilities and endless play.
And beyond. I like Infinity. I think, was it Disney Infinity? I think Infinity has been used. You can kind of see the logo now, but why would it be Infinity? What would it be named after?
Flexibility. Flexibility could reflect the idea of a console that can be used in different ways and adapt to the player's preferences.
The word flexibility is a great word for describing like the what you're saying it's describing, but yeah, it's a horrible word though to use for a name of a console. I'm just going to go and buy you a flexibility. Sounds like a loan. Personally, I think that the new console will be just something you've never heard of. The Nintendo Plus, the Nintendo Super Duper, the Super Nintendo. It could just be called Nintendo. We've seen Xbox do this, where it's just, right, we're going to start again, Xbox One. So it could just be called the NES, the Nintendo Entertainment System. Who knows? One thing it won't be called is anything to do with Switch. It won't be Switch Pro, Switch Plus. It will completely get rid of the Switch. When might the new Nintendo console release?
In general, it's common for companies to announce new consoles a few months before their release, so if a new console is in development, we may hear more about it as we get closer to the release date.
If you were Nintendo, when would you release it?
I would say that it would be strategic for Nintendo to release a new console at a time when market conditions are favorable, development is complete, The company's current console is reaching the end of its life cycle. With those factors in mind, it's possible that Nintendo would release the new console around the end of the Switch life cycle, which would be around 5-6 years after the initial release. That would put the release date around 2022-2023. But again, this is purely speculative and Nintendo has not announced any information about a new console yet.
So it's important to know that ChatGPT has only got data up until the start of last year. So they don't know that it hasn't released last year and it's unlikely to release this year. So they're basically saying it's going to be ASAP. It's going to be in the next year or two. There's no doubt in my mind it won't be this year, but I also feel strongly that it's going to be next year. So it'll be 2024. There's been reports yesterday of some chips being ordered, ready to go next year for a new Nintendo console. So the stars are aligning. It will be 2024. And given the success of the Switch releasing in March, there's no doubt in my mind it will be March next year. So do you think it will still be a hybrid console?
Given the success of the Switch as a hybrid console, it's possible that Nintendo will continue to focus on this concept and release a new console that is also a hybrid. It allows them to target both home console and portable gamers, and it provides a unique selling point. However, it's also possible that Nintendo could explore other form factors or designs for their new console, such as a purely portable console or a console that focuses on other features, such as virtual reality or augmented reality. It's important to keep in mind that the company is known for taking risks with new and experimental hardware, so it's possible that they will come up with something new that we haven't seen before.
Yeah, some interesting points about the fact that some of the features won't be available unless it is a hybrid console. They don't want to give up the console market. They don't want to give up the handheld market. A lot of people were saying that their handheld consoles will not do so well anymore because of mobile phones. That clearly has not been the case. There's a lot of people buying the Switch Lite, for example, which is handheld only. So that's clearly a market they're still able to tap into. I don't think there's anyone out there realistically thinking this isn't going to be a hybrid unless they decide to do a handheld and a console as separate products. But that would be very confusing for consumers, I would imagine. It would be one way of driving down prices because they could have the cheaper console and then the more expensive handheld. So let's finish this out. What crazy gimmick do you think the new Nintendo console will have?
Some possible gimmicks that Nintendo could include with their new console are holographic technology. Nintendo could incorporate a holographic display that allows players to see and interact with the images in the real world, similar to the Star Wars holocutscene.
Star Wars Holo Chess. I love the idea. I don't know how the heck you'd make it work. I mean, would you have a permanent steam generator and lasers all around? I think we're a while off holographic chess.
Flexible or foldable screen. Nintendo could use a flexible or foldable screen, which could be used to change the form factor of a console from a handheld to a home console and vice versa.
Now this is something that the technology is there. The problem I have with it is why. The beauty of the Samsung phones is you're making a big screen small that you could fit in your pocket. And it makes complete sense, although the crease still irritates some. Why would Nintendo have a foldable screen? Because they're expensive. They're very expensive. The Samsung phones are, $1,500. So what benefit would Nintendo have with it? But we have seen Nintendo use new technologies with the glassless 3D effect on their 3DS. So it's not unheard of, but I just don't see what the point of it would be.
Eye tracking. Nintendo could incorporate eye tracking technology, which would be used for a more immersive gaming experience, allowing players to control the game using their eyes, or for games that use the player's gaze as an input.
Yeah, it feels like something Nintendo would do. They would have to find a game that absolutely could not be played without eye tracking. Or they could be using eye tracking as a way of getting these amazing graphics, because if they know which part of the screen your eye is looking at, then they can build the world around that point. And so all of the stuff in the periphery of the screen that you're not looking at, they don't need to render as much. I think most developers know whereabouts in the screen you're going to be looking at, which is the character, and kind of would do that anyway. So yeah, an interesting idea, but again, I would need to see a reason for doing it. I'd love to play Time Crisis just by looking and shooting with my blinks. That would be cool. Or Point Blank. Pow, 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 bang!
Biometrics. Nintendo could incorporate biometrics features in the new console, such as measuring heart rate, temperature, or blood pressure, which could be used to create games that adapt to the player's emotional state or physical condition.
Yeah, Nintendo would only do this, I think, for health reasons. They had huge success before with the balance board on the Wii and for pushing health with all the biometric stuff they had there. They do have biometrics with the Switch where you hold the thing next to your heartbeat and it can measure your heartbeat. I think they've dipped their foot in the water a little bit, but they will know that there's money in selling your console to the mass market. And what do an awful lot of people who aren't traditional gamers want from a console? Well, they want to be able to lose weight, they want to be able to be healthy, and so that could definitely be an angle they try and push. Ring Fit Adventure was amazing. What a great game, and the ring that it came with was actually really, really great for exercising. So it could be something they push into. In fact, I'd be surprised if it isn't. It's not something I thought about, but I'd be surprised if they left that market untapped. Thanks for answering all my questions, Mrs. ChatGPT. If you have any other ideas, please feel free to write them in the comments. If you disagree or agree with what the AI has said about the new Nintendo console, discuss it down below. Anyway, thank you very much for watching this video. If you like it, click like. If you want to see more from us, we release gaming news every single day on the channel, every single weekday. I get the weekend off. So if you want to see more from us, click subscribe. Thank you very much.